The Thief and the Boy. A boy sat weeping upon the side of a well. A thief, happening to come by just at the same time, asked him why he wept. The boy, sighing and sobbing, showed a bit of cord, and said that a silver tankard had come off from it, and was now at the bottom of the well. The thief pulled off his clothes and went down into the well, meaning to keep the tankard for himself. Having groped about for some time without finding it, he came up again and found not only the boy gone, but his own clothes also, the dissembling rogue having made off with them. Lesson: it takes a thief to catch a thief. The Lark and her young ones. A lark, who had young ones in a field of wheat that was almost ripe, was afraid lest the reaper should come before her young brood was fledged. Every day, therefore, when she flew away to look for food, she charged them to take notice of what they heard in her absence, and to tell her of it when she returned. One day, when she was gone, they heard the master of the field say to his son that the grain seemed ripe enough to be cut, and to go early tomorrow and desire their friends and neighbors to come and help to reap it. When the old lark came home, the little ones fell quivering and chirping around her, and told her what had happened, begging her to remove them as fast as she could. The mother bade them to be easy, for, said she, if he depends upon his friends and his neighbors, I am sure the wheat will not be reaped tomorrow. Next day she went out again and left the same orders as before. The owner came and waited. The sun grew hot, but nothing was done, for not a soul came. You see, said he to his son, these friends of ours are not to be depended upon, so run off at once to your uncles and cousins, and say I wish them to come betimes tomorrow morning and help us reap. This the young ones, in a great fright, reported also to their mother. Do not be frightened, children, said she. Kindred and relations are not always very forward in helping one another, but keep your ears open and let me know what you hear tomorrow. The owner came back the next day, and finding his relations as backward as his neighbors, said to his son, Now, George, listen to me. Get a couple of good scythes ready against tomorrow morning, for it seems we must reap the wheat ourselves. The young ones told this to their mother. Then, my dear, said she, it is indeed time for us to go, for when a man undertakes to do his business himself, it is not so likely that he will be disappointed. She at once removed her young ones, and the wheat was reaped the next day by the old man and his son. Lesson: he who would have things well done must do them himself. The Thrush and the Swallow. A young thrush who lived in an orchard once became acquainted with a swallow. A friendship sprang between them, and the swallow, after skimming the orchard and the neighboring meadow, would every now and then come to visit with the thrush. The thrush, hopping from branch to branch, would welcome him with his most cheerful note. "Oh, mother," said he to his parent one day, "never did any creature have such a friend as I have in this same swallow." "Nor did any mother," replied the parent bird, "ever have such a silly son as I have in this same thrush. Long before the approach of winter, your friend will have left you, and while you sit shivering on a leafless bough, he will be sporting under sunny skies hundreds of miles away." Lesson: unequal friendships do not last. The Ass, the Lion, and the Cock. An ass and a cock, feeding in the same meadow, were one day surprised by a lion. The cock crowed loudly, and the lion, who is said to have a great antipathy to the crowing of a cock, at once turned tail and ran off again. The ass, believing that it was from fear of him that the lion fled, pursued him. As soon as they were out of hearing of the cock, the lion turned round upon the ass and tore him to pieces. Lesson: false confidence leads one to danger. The Eagle and the Fox. An eagle, looking around for something to feed her young ones with, spied a fox's cub basking in the sun. She swooped upon him and was about to carry him off, when the old fox came up and, with tears in her eyes, implored the eagle, by the love which she, as a mother, felt for her own young, to spare this, her only child. The eagle, whose nest was in a very high tree, made light of the fox's prayers and carried the cub to her brood. She was about to divide it among them when the fox, bent upon revenge, ran to an altar in a neighboring field on which some country people had been sacrificing a kid, and seizing thence a flaming brand, made towards the tree, meaning to set it on fire. The eagle, terrified at the approaching ruin of her family, was glad to give back the cub safe and sound to his mother. Lesson: measure for measure. The Old Woman and the Doctor. An old woman who had bad eyes called in a clever doctor who agreed for a certain sum to cure them. He was a very clever doctor, but he was also a very great rogue, and when he called each day and bound up the old woman's eyes, he took advantage of her blindness to carry away with him some article of her furniture. This went on until he pronounced the woman cured. Her room was then nearly bare. He claimed his reward, but the old lady protested that, so far from his being cured, her sight was now worse than ever. "We shall soon see about that, my good woman," said he, and she was shortly after summoned to appear in court. "May it please your honor," she said to the judge, "before I called in this doctor, I could see a score of things in my room that now, when he says I am cured, I cannot see at all." This opened the eyes of the court to the knavery of the doctor, who was forced to give the old woman her property back and was not allowed to claim a penny of his fee. Lesson: knavery overreaches itself. Fortune and the boy. A little boy, quite tired out with play, stretched out and fell sound asleep close to the edge of a deep well. Fortune came by and, gently waking him, said, "My dear boy, believe me, I have saved your life. If you had fallen in, everybody would have laid the blame on me. But tell me truly now, would the fault have been yours or mine?" Lesson: lay the blame where it belongs. The Partridge and the Gamecocks. A certain man, having taken a partridge, cut his wings and put him into a little yard where he kept gamecocks. The gamecocks were not at all civil to the newcomer, who at first put his treatment down to the fact of his being a stranger. When, however, he found that they frequently fought and nearly killed each other, he ceased to wonder that they did not respect him. Lesson: those who do not treat their own kindred well make poor friends. The Archer and the Dove. An archer, seeing a dove among the branches of an oak, raised his bow and aimed at the bird. Just then an adder, on which unknowingly he had trodden, bit him in the leg. Feeling the poison spreading in his veins, he threw down his bow and exclaimed, "Fate has justly brought destruction on me while I was contriving the death of another." Lesson: he that mischief hatcheth, mischief always catcheth. The Dog and the Crocodile. A dog running along the banks of the Nile grew thirsty, but fearing to be seized by the monsters of that river, he would not stop to quench his thirst, but lapped as he ran. A crocodile, raising his head above the surface of the water, asked him why he was in such a hurry. "I have often wished to meet you," added he, "and feel sure I should like you immensely. So why not stay and chat a while?" "You do me great honor," replied the dog, "but I am afraid the pleasure would be all on your side, and, to tell the truth, it is to avoid such companions as you that I am in such haste." Lesson: we can never be too carefully guarded against a connection with persons of bad character.